Good morning, Garland Nixon here with Scott Ritter, and of course, we're in the process of witnessing what appears to be a change of power in Washington D.C., and there's all kind of discussions about the potential for ending the Ukraine conflict. And further, let's talk. Good morning, Garland Nixon here with Scott Ritter. And okay, so now Donald Trump has, he's in power. Well, will be in power. He's won the election. He's now saying that he wants to end, literally saying he wants to end all the conflicts. Hey, that's a good thing. I mean, whether he'll be able to do it, that's something Scott and I are going to discuss a little bit. But before we get to that, don't forget ScottRitter.com. That's Scott's website. You can go there. You can find all of Scott's good work. And of course, share ScottRitter.com on all of your social media networks. Make sure that when you go there, you also, if you can afford it, that you donate to Scott's account, because let's face it, everybody here has to pay bills. And of course, you see everything's going across the bottom. If you can donate to this account, that's great. Otherwise, even if you can't, ScottRitter.com and this particular broadcast, make sure you share them on all your social media accounts. All right, let's get started here. Moon of Alabama, which has some really interesting stuff at times. They got an article here, and we're going to get at it. Trump and Ukraine, how will a president elect Donald Trump handle the war in Ukraine? And they go on to say that basically they're going to push for, as they say, they're likely to push for a settlement that doesn't appear to give a major win to Moscow. And apparently this one idea in here is, hey, we'll freeze the line of contact. We will keep pumping Ukraine full of weapons, and but it'll be paid for by the couple of issues here. It'll be paid for by the Europeans. The Europeans are going broke. In fact, let me add this. Right now, Olaf Scholz's government is collapsing. And when I read why it's collapsing, it's because they're arguing over more aid for Ukraine. Bottom line, they got problems. Your thoughts? And when it comes down to it, to me, the offers that would be made in the context of the U.S. empire that says we are going to walk away without getting our nose bloodied, none of that crap would be acceptable to Russia. So let's talk about this, Scott. It seems to me that ultimately this thing gets finished on the battlefield. I don't know your thoughts on Trump's potential ability to end the conflict.
Well, first of all, when I read the Moon of Alabama article, it's no criticism of him. But the notion that there's three people inside the Trump transition team who have, with Trump's support, articulated a plan as complex as this. A plan that requires diplomacy, a plan that requires the consideration for your European allies, and of this complexity, and one that requires a confrontational stance towards Russia. I say that no. I mean, Donald Trump has not tasked three people in a transition team to write such a plan. I'm not saying such a plan doesn't exist. I'm saying it's not a Trump plan.
Right.
It's not a Trump plan. It's far too complicated. It requires far too much diplomacy. It requires too much. I mean, there's too much there that can't be done as a transition team. The idea that Donald Trump is going to be out there making the phone calls, sending delegations out to do all this before he becomes president is stupid. Literally.
And illegal. And technically it's illegal.
It's illegal as hell. Remember Mike Flynn, his former, he got in trouble because during the transition period, he was, taking phone calls from Russians. Can't do it, man. Can't do it. So no, it's just, it's a non-starter in my mind. I'm not saying I could be wrong, but no, it doesn't make any sense. I think Donald Trump has a plan. It's called starvation, resource starvation. And I think Donald Trump can make a phone call to Zelensky that just says, look, when I come in, we're turning the spigot off. It's off, full off. There ain't nothing. And you're going to die. But between now and then, you're welcome to sit down and craft out the best peace deal you can get. But when I come in, it's just the spigot's off. The idea and the idea that he's going to make a threatening phone call to Putin is stupid. It just there's no indication that he is even thinking in this way right now. The Russians have put out the right feelers. They're willing to talk with Trump. And I think Trump will early on seek to have that conversation. But the process to begin that kind of talk begins on January 20th. He can't do anything beforehand. It just isn't going to happen. Remember, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him across the board to do a lot of things. This is a revolution that we're talking about here. This isn't just another, transition government. Donald Trump's come in with a mandate for change, and that change will be manifested in revolutionary manners. We're talking about shutting down departments. Let's see what happens when he fires the head of the FBI and shuts down the Department of Justice's National Security Division. Let's see what happens when Bobby Kennedy goes to work on the Food and Drug Administration. I mean, there's all these things that are happening here that are going to have Trump's focus domestically. Doesn't want to get bogged down in a pissing match with Russia over Ukraine. So this plan that's put out there, it's the most un-Trump-like plan imaginable. This is the kind of stupidity that the Heritage Foundation puts forward, or the Cato Foundation, or the neocons. And that's what I think happened here. Is there's 3 neocons who got together and they spoke at one time with Donald Trump Jr. And they said, well, he said, well, we'd be interested to hear what you have to say. But they're not part of a transition team that doesn't exist. The transition team does not exist. So the idea that they had a transition team plotting Ukraine strategy it's just absurd in the extreme, and it's the most un-Trump plan ever. The Trump plan is, hey, President Zelensky, we're shutting off the spigot. Deal with it. Click. That's the Trump plan.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like my dad's plan. You better handle it, son. You better handle your business. You know what I mean? I got things to do. But at any rate, here's the other part of it too. Again, as a person who studies Zen, right? If you see a muddy puddle and it's all stirred up, how do you fix it? You leave it alone, right? Yeah. Any problem that you have, most of the time, a lot of problems that you have, the best course of action is no course of action. Trump doesn't need a plan. It ain't on his back. He said, I don't think this is a good idea. This is screw. What the hell are you people doing? Hey, we could all get blown up. I don't want World War III, right? So you're right. I never thought about this. But what you're saying, Scott, makes the most sense. They screwed this all up. And what did they say? Ukraine is an independent and sovereign nation. We can't do anything without Ukraine. Ukraine's going to have to say. Now, under the Biden administration, that was a lie. It was a narrative. But if Trump comes in with that narrative and says, look, Ukraine's an independent and sovereign nation. Here's what we're going to do. It wouldn't be right for us to impose a settlement between them and Russia. Now, unfortunately, we can't provide any more weapons or money for them. And it's probably in their best interest if they get a deal with Russia. If they don't, it kind of sucks, to tell you the truth. But we got like hurricane shit we got to rebuild right now. So, hey, have a nice day. There's a premise. And the premise in Wall Street Journal is Donald Trump has to fix this. He has to solve it. But realistically, and he can say to Europe, which he already is kind of saying, Europe, you got a big problem here, right? He can say to Europe, hey, you guys, look, even you, if you want to take over this Ukraine thing and work with them, and you got the money to do that, man, we don't neither have the money nor the time nor the inclination to do it. You guys can do what you want. Talk to Zelensky. Zelensky, talk to him. I would advise you to talk to Russia. But at this point, he can wash his hands of it because it ain't his problem. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, no, here's the other thing too. Donald Trump is vindictive. I mean, who wouldn't be in his position? I mean, to be honest, you'd like to believe that your commander in chief's above the fray, but this is a man who was impeached, and the key witnesses at his impeachment. The impeachment was about Ukraine. I just want to remind everybody of this.
Yes,
The impeachment was about Ukraine, and the key witnesses against him were his team members that the establishment told him to put in there.
Yep.
Fiona Hill, the various ambassadors, Vindman. I mean, this is his team. Ciarella, the CIA guy who never testified but was there behind the scenes. This was his team. This was Donald Trump's administration that turned on him. And it was about Ukraine, and it was about Russia. And now you want me to believe that Donald Trump is going to turn to people that come from the same establishment, the so-called experts on Ukraine that have been trained in Georgetown, trained in Harvard, trained in Stanford, and they're all going to come together and he's going to listen to them. Guys, it's over. Donald Trump is, I believe, going to clean house and bring in new thinkers, people who aren't tainted by the same establishment that betrayed him on Ukraine. They impeached him because of Ukraine, and his team testified against him. If you think for a moment Donald Trump is going to say, yeah, it's okay, we're going to get the same actors in there, I don't think you know Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying I know Donald Trump. I'm just saying I've been observing him for a while, and he seems like a fairly vindictive person. And in this case, he has every right to be vindictive. So I don't see him surrendering his policy to these people. And, here's the other thing. In this election, and we talked about this the other night when we had a fantastic, lengthy election watching party with Gerald Celente the other day in Kingston. We're looking at the returns as they came out in the exit polling. And I think we were all shocked by how low foreign policy polled, 3, 4, 5%. That's it. But then we all talked about it and said, but that's a fake number, because this big number, the economy, which was up around 33% consistently across the board, the economy includes things like, we're tired of sending $120 billion to Ukraine when we need money here at home. We're tired of flooding Israel with endless money when we need money here at home. We're tired of endless wars. We don't want our troops. Why are our troops going overseas when we need the National Guard in North Korea to be flying rescue missions? Why are we giving away all our military might when the Pentagon's saying we got nothing left? Our coffers are empty. So a lot of what passed for, the economy had a foreign policy angle too, including, I mean, we're not there yet, but I just want to point out, J.D. Vance gave a speech the other day where he talked about China, and it wasn't the establishment speech. We're here for Taiwanese independence. We're here to shut down the Chinese. And he said, the first thing China does when it goes into a place overseas is build a road. First thing we do is bomb. I mean, man, this is a total thing. And this is the other thing I want to bring up by bringing up J.D. Vance. Donald Trump is a one-term president. That's it. He can't serve another term. And I know there's people, well, he'll violate. No, he won't. He's 78 years old. He's a one-term president. This is not a Republican president. This is a MAGA president. The Republican Party's dead. The Democratic Party just died. MAGA is the only viable political movement in America today. And Donald Trump picked a MAGA vice president. He didn't pick a Mike Pence. He didn't pick a Republican, an establishment guy. He picked the most anti-establishment MAGA guy you could possibly pick. Why? Because he wants MAGA to change America. I think you're going to see J.D. Vance being a heck of a lot more involved in this, because he has to be groomed. He has to be polished, because in 4 years, he has to run as the MAGA is Trump's legacy. And so I think you're going to see a lot of J.D. Vance brought into these various policy things. And Vance is very much against continuing this war in Ukraine. He's a resource starvation kind of guy. Those are the people. And RFK Jr., Let's never forget that RFK Jr. and Donald Trump Jr. wrote an article that was published in The Hill
Point.
that was given the thumbs up by Donald Trump, that talked about ending a war, not going to nuclear war with Russia, all these. So this is the direction I see the Trump administration heading right now. It's a direction that's influenced by the new political reality in America today. We're talking about a revolution. We're talking a literal revolution is taking place right now, which means you don't have revolutions that are anti-establishment in nature, only to fall back on the establishment to prop up your revolution. So anybody who thinks Trump's going back to pull forward, I think you're wrong. I think Trump is bringing in new bodies, and we're going to be seeing radically new policy initiatives. Whether they'll succeed in that is another question.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what his cabinet looks like. I think that determines, when Obama came in, right? And everybody's like, hey, Obama's going to be different. I thought he was going to be different. And then when you looked at his cabinet, you're like, Tim Geithner, Wall Street, you know what I mean? You started seeing, you're like, really? Hillary Clinton's in your cabinet? At that point is when we should have realized that things are going to be different. So I think
we may see that. We may see that this time, and we may find out that Trump is just a bunch of hot air, and if he brings Mike Pompeo in, he's truly the dumbest man that ever walked the face of the earth. Mike Pompeo is pure evil, who betrayed him, stabbed him in the back, prevented the North Korea deal, the whole thing. So if he brings Pompeo in, that's when I flush Trump down the toilet of life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna look. I don't know what's what or anything else. All I know is we will see if a mysterious guy ends up laying on a building in Butler, Pennsylvania again, looking at Trump. We will see if what his cabinet looks like. Right now, that's the next thing. What's his cabinet going to look like? Who's he going to choose? Is it going to be Tom Cotton or one of these other lunatics, right? And then once that happens, we can discuss further. Right now, it is what it is. One would have to think, based on the historical context, that, hey, they did everything they could to take. They charged him with everything in the world. I would think that Trump would be ready to, if nothing else, get some revenge. But we will see.
Did you see Steve Bannon's talk?
No.
Oh man.
No, Bannon.
I don't know to what degree Bannon's plugged in to Team Trump right now. But he took a hit for Trump, and Trump appreciates loyalty. Bannon went to jail instead of responding to the January 6th thing. But he said Donald Trump's a merciful man. But he said, I'm not, and we're not, and there will be vengeance against the people that have wronged him. And I just want to point out, did you see, again, these are the things I pick up on. Did you see Donald Trump and Melania Trump when he gave the presentation, when he did his thing? There was genuine warmth there. I mean, I know they have their issues and hand-holding crisis and all that kind of stuff. There's genuine warmth there. She has articulated, and I don't mean to get into the week, but this is very important to point out, guys. The FBI went through her underwear drawer.
Wow.
And she's pissed. The FBI raided Mar-a-Lago and went through her underwear drawer, and she's pissed. If you're a member of the FBI's National Security Division, I would strongly suggest you start putting resumes into Rent-A-Cops or whatever, because you're done. You're finished. It's over. You've been going after this guy. You are responsible for the 2016 Russiagate hoax. You're responsible for trying to bring this president down for 4 years of his administration, 4 more years of Biden, and you went through his wife's underwear drawer. And now Bannon's up there saying there will be vengeance. Okay, there's no way Trump doesn't deal with that issue. An FBI agent went through his wife's underwear drawer.
Well, I'm going to say this too, and we've seen this in the past. I will guarantee you this, Scott. There are people in the FBI and the intelligence community all over the place that maybe didn't like what was happening, and they're waiting. And they're going to come out. We've seen whistleblowers, a few here and there. But now you'll see people come out and say, well, let me tell you, I was here and this is what happened here. And things that will be shocking to the conscience. right?
Yep.
Because what Trump, the idea that Trump won misses the mark. Trump didn't win. Trump got a mandate.
A mandate.
To use his favorite word, he obliterated the Democrats. The Democrats collapsed. He obliterated the Democrats. And from the looks of things, he got the Senate and the House, which means that even the anti-Trump Republicans now know I'm at Trump's mercy, because people that don't even vote for Trump voted for Trump. The demographics that don't vote for Trump voted for Trump. Everybody in America said you can interpret it one or two ways. You can interpret it as we want Trump, or you can interpret it as we hate what was going on. It doesn't matter. Anyway, they saw Trump as the cure. The amount of political capital that he has right now is incalculable.
But there's more than that, Garland. The Supreme Court has said Trump cannot be prosecuted criminally for anything he does as president. All right, which means
somebody.
And they said we're getting there. They said that the only check and balance against Trump is Congress, meaning impeachment. If you think a MAGA Senate and a MAGA House is going to impeach a MAGA president for kicking the living crap out of the establishment, think again. This man, America has no clue what's about to happen. The potential here is unprecedented. You know, if you think Christopher Wray is going to survive as the head of the FBI for a day, Comey's going to be arrested. And I think the FBI is going to be rounded up, and there's going to be investigations. You know, Jim Jordan, if he's on a committee head, there will be hell to pay. There will be literal hell to pay. And here's the thing: the Democrats have nothing. They collapsed. There is no Democratic Party today. Biden, they made a fatal mistake in propping up Biden in 2020, because instead of growing somebody, Garland, had they let Donald Trump win the election that he was supposed to win in 2020, MAGA would be dead right now. MAGA would be dead because Trump would have failed. He was a 4-year president who was taken over by the establishment. Things were collapsing. Let him come in and collapse. They're talking about the end of democracy. No. Trump would have been a caged rat as in his last 4 years, and his policies would have been so bad that the Democrats would have been able to solidify control of the House, of the Senate, possibly get the House, and in that period of time, grow a leader that could challenge whatever weak ass stuff. Mike Pence was his vice president. That he would never be president. So it would have been the end of MAGA. They would have killed MAGA, and the Democrats would have been able to move forward with their whole demographic revolution, making sure there's never again a Republican president. Instead, they put Joe Biden in, and they put Kamala Harris as the heir apparent, a woman who couldn't get a single delegate when she ran for president, has no national appeal whatsoever, an unknown a DEI candidate in every way, shape, and form. And and then they went through a process of launching a coup to remove Biden, put her in, and now she's gone. Where's their bench? Someone said Gavin Newsom. You think Gavin Newsom has national appeal? You're high. He couldn't run for dog catcher in any state but California. There's nothing, and they've got nothing else. The Congress, there will be no congressional opposition, and the reforms that Trump is getting ready to put in are going to be so damn popular in this country. The amount of resentment that exists in the American people towards the establishment is unreal. That's why Trump has this mandate, because people are sick and tired of the status quo ante. And the Republican Party's already dead. I mean, the Mitch McConnells and all those traditional guys, they're gone. Okay, there's a new wave of people. I'm not happy with them. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm happy with it. I hate Tom Cotton with a passion beyond belief. But it's MAGA, and Trump is MAGA, and J.D. Vance is MAGA. MAGA is a political movement now that, where it should never have had legs, is now real. We are looking at the potential for 20 years of MAGA rule. 4 years of Trump, 8 years of Vance, 8 years of Tulsi Gabbard. If I'm just throwing that name out
Right,
there.
right.
But my point is, because because they have the potential of revolutionary change, they're going to redesign how America governs itself. And the Democrats are going to be out there putting up Gavin Newsom. And so they'll get crushed. And by the time they run its course, the Democrats it's not going to be the Democratic Party. They're going to have to reform something, a centrist movement or something that could maybe run in 2036. But that's it. This is the end of the Democratic Party. It's over. They've got nobody. And Trump has the chance. Now, Donald Trump could screw this up. It's very easy. He could screw this up. And he could bring in the wrong people, and MAGA collapses, and J.D. Vance fumbles, and we move on, and the Democrats have a miracle in 4 years. But there is a real chance right now for a MAGA revolution that has sustained MAGA presence in government for up to 20 years. And that's earth-shattering. That's the kind of consistency that America has lacked for so long. When was the last time we had, 12 years of, when have we had 16 years of single party rule recently? No. Best we could get is 12.
Yeah. And what we have now is single party rule. What we've been having is single party rule disguised as multi-party rule.
That's right. The duopoly. Yeah.
Right. And they come together.
MAGA ain't part of the duopoly. MAGA ain't duopoly, man.
Yeah. It's interesting to watch this, but and the one thing the Democrats could do to save themselves in 2028, there is something they could do. And you know what that would be? To have an open primary and allow everybody to run just like before. And the likelihood is that some Bernie Sanders-esque kind of person, now although Bernie ended up being a complete fraud, but you get my point. An outside person who thinks differently, I'm just using Bernie as somebody who's not a normal establishment, at least presents as somebody who people would say that's something different, would win. But they can't afford that because they're too corrupt, they're too insular. So their only way out is something they can't do. And hey, let them keep what did the Iranians say? Thank God for making my enemies fools. So, but at any rate, so let's get back to this. Based on what we're seeing, we're talking about as far as the resolution of the Ukrainian debacle, it seems to me that when it comes down to, because Trump ain't gonna go, he's saying, I ain't going in there fighting. I ain't going in there military. Don't ask me to send my ships in. No, I ain't entered Europe. That's your problem. And Europe is broken. They got no weapons and they got no soldiers and they got nobody that wants to go fight on Russia's border, right? So it seems to me at some point, Trump gets to the point where he just says, look, I got all kinds of stuff going on here right now. I'm kind of busy, guys. Ukraine, I'm sure you're going to handle it. We got no money for you. Europe, you're up. Do what you got to do. See you later. At that point, they have no alternative but to call Russia and say, what do you want? And Russians, first of all, the Russians all along, I'm reading right now where Lavrov, I'm going to read it. We have never rejected contact with anyone. President Putin stresses our position every time the topic is raised. Talking is always better than getting isolated from each other. We'll see if there are any proposals. And I reiterate that it was not us who broke off relations. And it's not up to us to suggest reviving those. If there is an initiative to sit down and have a frank conversation about where we are standing and how we should move forward without any unilateral demands, we will be ready for that. And it's not an unreasonable position.
It's 100% reasonable. And it's also a position that Russia can easily take because let's take Germany, for instance. Germany was the economic heart of Europe. It's in free fall right now. Scholz has to call for new elections. His ruling coalition has collapsed. He's done. And whoever comes in will have to look at, in order to save, literally there's only one path to saving the German economy right now. And that's Russian energy, Russian oil. And they're going to have to re-engage Russia on energy. And once Germany does that, all of Europe will jump on board. It's the end of European unity on that. Blames Ukraine aid for government collapse. How about blaming your stupid policy of sanctions?
Well, there is some truth to that. I could argue that I could make an argument there's some truth to the government collapsing over Ukraine aid,
Sure, but I mean,
but not the way he's saying it, you know. But yeah, people don't want the damn Ukraine aid; they want German aid.
they want, well, again, it's a foreign policy issue. It's a domestic issue disguised as foreign policy. Why don't they want Ukraine aid? Because they don't want money going there at a time when the German economy is in free fall. Volkswagen is shutting down 3 plants, and you know, industry is fleeing. They can't afford to run the furnaces for steel and aluminum, and it's over. They're looking at depression, not just recession, but depression, and it's because they cut off Russian energy, and there's no viable replacement for it. And so you're going to see Europe, this isn't going to be a case. I mean, I read a paper out of France the other day where France is talking about creating a French nuclear umbrella for Europe. That France is going to step up and create this nuclear umbrella. And I'm like, how are you going to afford that, France? Because you can't afford it. Your economy is just as getting on the verge of being just as bad as the German economy. Nobody, all these grand plans, you got all these stupid NATO people up there talking about building this, building that, building this, building that. There's no money for it. Their economies can't sustain it. And so it was all predicated on America will back us up.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore. It's over, guys. Europe has to stand on its own, and it can't. NATO is finished. NATO doesn't survive a J.D. Vance term. The NATO is so complicated that I don't know if Trump can dismantle it in 4 years. But if J.D. Vance becomes the next president, NATO is finished. There will be no, because America is not going to continue to fund a Cold War relic whose only purpose is to get us involved in a war with Russia that we don't want. That MAGA does not want a war with Russia. NATO exists only for a war with Russia. And so, boom. Diane Collier, if you're watching this, and I know she watches some of my things, she's the editor with Clarity Press. I'm ready to write the End of NATO book. She's been pressuring me for a couple of years to write a book that I wanted to write about the end of NATO. This is it. Now I can honestly say that my prediction will come true, and I can even put time frames on it now. It's a book that now can be written, because I don't like to write speculative books that have conclusions that are sort of hanging, and then something happens and you're with a book whose premise is no longer viable. I'm telling you right now, when I write the book, The End of NATO, it's going to happen almost exactly the way it's the most predictable outcome right now. NATO's finished. The European Union, as it's currently conceived, is finished. Europe will have to come up with a new way of doing business that requires them to not be adversarial with Russia. They will have to become genuine partners. But a Europe that is premised on institutions like the European Union, NATO, and here's a kicker: the G7. These are institutions that cannot work with Russia as partners. So therefore, because Europe can't survive without an economic partnership with Russia, these institutions are finished. They're finished. It's done. This is the new world we live in. This is the MAGA. This is the impact of the MAGA revolution. If they can pull it off, is that it will actually make the world a safer place to live. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you right now, NATO is the most dangerous thing for America. Because if we continue to be a part of NATO and support NATO, there will be a war with Russia, and that war will go nuclear, and we will all die. We must get rid of NATO. It is a perennial troublemaker. There's nothing good that comes from it. The European Union was meant to be the political arm of NATO. NATO is the military arm. European Union was that which gave it the pretense of some sort of European singularity. There is no European singularity. Europe will now have to go back to its constituent parts, which is the way Europe was always meant to be. It doesn't mean that Europe's going to be fighting wars with one another. You can have, a loose confederation of European states that closely cooperate, but foreign policy will be independent. Foreign policy, economic policy will be independent. I don't think the euro stands much longer. If Germany drops out of the euro, France and Italy can't sustain it. And then the G7 is just we're looking at the rules-based international order in reverse. We can't sustain it. There's have to be something new coming in, and the G7 will have to be reconfigured, rethought out in a way that can compete with BRICS, because BRICS is crushing the G7 in every possible, statistical measurement. So I'm almost excited right now, Garden, because the establishment was killing us. The duopoly, this deep state, was destroying America, and literally, because it can only justify a continued existence through conflict. It was going to get us in a war that would go nuclear, and we're all going to die. For the first time, I woke up and I'm like, because man, I had nightmares because my brain's always working. My brain's always working, and I wake up in the morning depressed, sometimes in a cold sweat, because I'm just like, how do we get out of this? How do we avoid a nuclear war? How do I, my daughters? I mean, I literally, am like, how do I rescue my daughters? How do I go down? Let me get my camera focused on you. How do I go down to Washington, D.C. and rescue my daughter that's down there? Can I get to New York City in time? The traffic's going to be unreal. How do I get my daughters out of there? How can I get them up here at home with us so that we can at least die together? Man, that's not a conversation or an internal conversation any parent wants to have. For the first time, I'm waking up going, I don't have to worry about this. I mean, I maybe I will if
we can make it till January 20th, maybe we got a chance.
If Trump delivers on the promises, for the first time we have the potential of actually a future where we don't have the threat of imminent nuclear war hanging over our head. And I am so relieved by this. I mean, it almost makes me cry. I'm so happy about it.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying that Trump's the greatest thing since sliced bread. As I've said, anybody who's been watching me, I'm not going to say how I voted, but if I voted for Trump, I would have held my nose in there, because there's a lot about this guy I don't like. I feel very betrayed by what he did. But when I admit to voting for him in 2016, I feel betrayed by those 4 years. Totally betrayed. And I'm not happy about some of the people he hangs out with. I mean, he should have condemned Mike Pompeo, not embraced Mike Pompeo. This bothers me. But there's the potential. And Steve Bannon gave me hope. Not that I like Steve Bannon, but when I heard Steve Bannon talk about vindictiveness and taking down the establishment, I went, that's where the focus must be. Stop trying to create a war with Russia, a war with Iran, a war in the Middle East, a war with China, and start taking down the Department of Justice, the FBI. I just want to remind you, Donald, an FBI agent went through your wife's underwear drawer. That agent should never again be employed, and the department in the FBI that allowed this to happen should never exist. They came into my house. They went through my wife's underwear drawer. I mean, they went through everything. The FBI came into my house and turned it upside down, looking for what? Computers, communication. For what reason? Because I dared articulate policy options to nuclear war with Russia. That makes me a criminal. I mean, the FBI is the greatest threat to American national security today, along with the Department of Justice that oversees it. And the national security divisions of the FBI and the Department of Justice don't defend security. They harm America. They went through my wife's underwear drawer. They went through Melania Trump's underwear drawer. They should not be employed. They should never be allowed to carry a gun or a badge. That's the honest to God's truth. And if Donald Trump's half as pissed off as I am, woe be it for those FBI agents and those Department of Justice officials. They don't deserve to serve our country. They're the greatest threat to America that exists today, and it's an internal threat. And now I need Donald Trump to focus on eliminating this internal threat, and we might be able to avoid an external war.
Yeah, I think you're right. Right now, I understand that, the old saying, once bitten, twice shy, right? And I understand that people are, like, hey, you guys are being a little too optimistic. Here's the thing. To me, it's not optimism. It's simply as this. We had no chance. I was convinced that if Kamala won, I was convinced it could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 or 3 years. I was convinced there is no way we would survive 4 years. It was done. There's just no way we're going to survive 4 years and we're all dead. I knew that for a fact, beyond a reasonable doubt, to a moral certainty, as they say in court, right? And now I ain't, oh, Trump's great or whatever. I'm simply saying, I think we have a chance to survive. Not that we will. We went from 0 chance to survive. Let's say we got a 50% chance.
I put out
over 0.
I did a meme. It's the first time I ever made a meme in my life. I'm not normally a meme maker, but I was just trying to capture as simple as possible my feeling about Trump. Because anybody who's listened to me, I don't like the man. I mean, I've said it. He's a cheater at golf, and my personal approach to it is if you cheat at golf, I can't do business with you. But Kamala Harris was going to get us in a nuclear war, and we're all going to die. So I went back and drew upon my extensive knowledge of Avengers: Infinity Wars and Avengers: Endgame. Are you familiar with the movie?
Yeah,
there's a scene in there. There's a scene in there when Doctor Strange. They're trying to figure out how to stop Thanos from destroying the universe, and he goes forward in time and he does 14,635 visits to the future. And Iron Man asks him, and how many of those did we win? And he said 1. And then later on in the end game, Iron Man's like, as everything's falling apart, he goes, hey, you said there was 14 million chances and we won 1. Is this it? Is this the one we're going to do? He said, if I tell you, it won't happen. But then later on, he turns to Iron Man and he says, this is it. And Iron Man goes, puts on the glove, snaps his finger, and dies, but saves the world. And I made that into a meme because, look, there's no guarantee that the MAGA revolution is going to work. There's no guarantee that Donald Trump's going to do what he says he's going to do. There's no guarantee that if he wants to, he's able to pull it off. There's no guarantees, man. But what we have is a 100%, literally 100% chance of thermonuclear war if Kamala Harris was elected president. Yep. So I am at the point right now where I am Iron Man looking and saying there's a 1 in 14,665 chance in surviving. Take it.
You got
take it. Take it because you have no other choice. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm not up here, saying that this is the greatest thing in the world that's ever happened. But America does need a revolution. I mean, America needs, and I would prefer what I call a constitutional revolution.
Right.
That is, done within the framework of the institutions created by the Constitution to govern this country. An executive, even if it's a unitary executive, empowered by a Supreme Court ruling that I, as an American who believes in, checks and balances, I'm not happy with a president that can't be prosecuted criminally for anything he does as president, especially when I take a look at Congress not having the guts to be able to stand up. But this revolution is going to require China be broken. This revolution is going to require doors to be kicked down, institutions to be burned to the ground. And if previous presidents who might have been inclined to carry out such reforms were afraid to because of criminal prosecute, Donald Trump ain't afraid of that anymore. Supreme Court said you literally can do anything you want to. I mean, they even postulated at one point that you could use SEAL Team 6 to kill a political opponent. I don't think you can. That's murder. But they're saying that. But what the good news is, Congress can't stop them. They won't, because the only impediment is impeachment, and you're not going to get 60 some odd senators to vote in favor of impeaching a MAGA president who's taken down the establishment, and the House isn't going to even put up impeachment. So Trump, he has the toolbox that's been given to him by this election, this popular vote winning, electoral vote sweep, Senate, House, Supreme Court. The toolbox is there. There's no excuse for Donald Trump not to totally tear down the deep state. End it now. He talked about draining the swamp before. He can do it now. He has the toolbox. He just needs the political will. And I think the political will that is fueled by vengeance is needed right now, because we do need to take down this establishment with a vengeance. This can't be done politely. This can't be done discreetly. This is go in and burn the thing down. End it. Fire these people. There's 58,000 civil servants out there. What do? They preserve establishment rule. And the establishment has not served us well. So take a flamethrower to it. That's
Yeah, they haven't even served themselves well. You know what I mean? They lost everything. Everything they've done is absolute and total debacle. And now they don't even have the capacity for introspection. They can't even look and say, perhaps we made some errors. No, they got to say the voters failed us. That's all they got now. Well, this group didn't, and that, the black males, white females, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? They go there. All they do is go into the demographics and see which demographic failed them. They bear no responsibility to the people. They don't have to. They can't say, well, why is it the black males voted for Trump in numbers that we've never seen before?
But they never asked the question.
You know,
they never asked the question.
Go ahead.
What did we do to cause that?
Exactly. And what do they need to get their vote? No, they failed us. How dare they fail with whatever group, all groups of the. What happens when everybody in the country no longer votes for you, and you don't say, why are they not voting for me? You say, how dare them? That's how you got there. Now,
that's why the Democratic Party's dead. That's why they're dead. Because this demographic, they've been playing the demographic wars. There's a. Do you remember the Dave Chappelle skit that he did on Saturday Night Live when Trump first won?
Yeah,
it's been making its rounds right now.
Yes.
But you had one of the white, liberal men. There's a chance that there will never be a Republican president again, right? Because we were controlling the demographics. And they were saying, thank the Latinos in Florida for voting out Trump. And then Florida goes to Trump, and Chappelle's like, I guess the Latinos didn't hear your toast. Right. And they're all like, we need black men to vote this way. And these are white people saying that. How about talking to the black people and saying, what do you need? Because that's the problem. The Democratic Party has been, we had this conversation, they've been using civil rights era leaders as their overseers. They empowered these people, they enriched them, they gave them their fiefdoms. John Clyburn's job, the only reason why Biden's president is because John Clyburn went to the Southern Baptist churches and said to the blacks, here's our guy.
Yeah, we got coming up for Jim Clyburn. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Jim Clyburn.
The jobs of these guys were to deliver the votes.
Deliver the black vote.
Right.
The black vote.
So and so, we got X amount of black voters registered in this country. My job is to deliver that to my donors and payers for the Democratic Party. But there was never transactional. It was never, what do we need to do for these people? What are they concerned about? Nope. Just say, hey guys, everybody get out and vote. But at some point they were like, yeah, there's nothing in it for people are always going to do that. At some point,
every 4 years when you're told to come out to vote, and the inner city got worse. How'd you like to live in Baltimore, watch crime rates go up, watch everything crumble, and then be told every 4 years, come out and vote for the whitey that promises what? Nothing. You're just vote for him because that's your job. Now go back to your crumbling infrastructure where any money that comes in goes through the black guy at the top who is rich, lives in the mansion on the hill, has the big limo, lives the great lifestyle. But the black people who need it in the inner city aren't getting a damn thing. And you wonder why black men woke up one morning and said, I'm not doing that again. I'm not doing it again. You wonder why Latinos, 45% of Latino men voted for Trump. Why? They shouldn't have. I mean, my God, shut down the border, shut down this, that, and the other thing. These are very bad people. Why did 45% of Latino men vote for Donald Trump? Because they're sick and tired of being told to vote for the other side and not a damn thing happening. And to be honest, the vast majority of them came over legally. And they're like, hey, I had to jump through the hoops, do the thing, work. I built roots. I'm an American. And, I resent the fact that you're allowing the system to be flooded. It's not good for.
Who takes my job? They take my job. You know what I mean? It makes
Yeah.
it harder for me to work because you flooded the labor market. So now if you're paying, you're thrilled because you get cheap labor, but I'm not thrilled because you've lowered the value of labor because you flooded the labor market. It cost me money.
The most compelling argument Trump made in 2020 was when he said, I'm not here to, I mean, he sort of fumbled this time because he talked about black jobs. I mean, I think we knew what he meant, but it's not a very articulate thing to do. How do you like your black job, Garland?
Right.
I mean, it's just stupid. But the argument he said is the Democrats are offering you minimum wage. He said, I'm offering you a $48 an hour steelworker job. And there was just black men and Latino men went, I like that 48-hour steelworker job. I don't want to be the demographic that gets told you're going to be allowed to work for minimum wage, that we're going to up the minimum wage. No. Now, did Trump deliver? That's a whole different thing. I'm just talking about, again, it's the same thing. A lot of what we're talking about is potential.
Right.
It's unfulfilled. It's potential. And a lot of it probably isn't going to happen the way we'd like it to happen. Life never works out that way. But to be told that your two choices are the potential for a $48 an hour steelworker job or the potential for getting minimum wage upped so that you're still in poverty. Those are your two options. It's it's probably more realistic that you're going to get minimum wage up and you're going to stay in poverty. You could say that's a realistic path, but is that really the path you want to aspire to? And enough people were saying, no, I'm going to take the dream. I'm going this direction. And you started to see that demographic shift in 2020. And that's one thing that the Democrats today ignored. In 2020, Trump, even though he was called a racist and everything, the demographic shift had already begun in 2020. You saw that with the results. People tend to forget that he got 71 million votes in 2020.
And I think he got 8% or 7% or 8% of the black vote then, which no Republican ever got. I think he got like 11% or something. Anyway, what they forget is this: 2016, 2020, 24. In all of those demographics, he kept increasing. And now 2024, he increased in all areas, all demographics, everything. The Democrats did this. They did this to themselves. They came in, they made promises, they didn't do anything, they ignored everybody. When that train wreck happened in East Palestine, Ohio and Pennsylvania were gone for the Democrats. They didn't show up for like weeks and weeks. Trump came there before they did. They had no chance at Ohio and Pennsylvania when that happened on the Ohio border, and they did nothing.
Joe Biden should have gone in with a hazmat suit and a hard hat and walked around and got decontaminated. I mean, could you imagine the photo op of Joe Biden going down there to Palestine and putting on the gas mask and coming in there and embracing people and talking to them, going through the decontamination line and all that stuff, and then pulling it off, sweat coming down his face, saying, this infrastructure bill has to be passed. This is intolerable. We need to fix this. I'm here with you, standing side by side with you. FEMA mummies. Man, he is president for life if he pulls that off. Instead, they were left there ignored. And every poverty-stricken rural community in America said, there but for the grace of God go us. Just like out of North Carolina, every Appalachian county, any rural county sat there and said, my God, what happens if that happens to us? Is the government only going to come in and give us $750 while they're giving billions of dollars away to Ukraine and all that? Biden was horrible. One of the problems is he's an old man and he can't do all that kind of stuff. But Kamala could have gone through the decontamination line. I mean, what the hell kind of advisors do these people have?
It was unbelievable to watch. They did, and I don't know if you remember, during the East Palestine, Ohio, he didn't show up, and one of the reasons was at the time he was still pushing. He was like fighting real hard to get more money for Ukraine. They were trying to get a Ukraine bill through. I mean, people see that. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, what we see now is the reaction. To me, is it about Trump? In a way, you could argue that it's about the Democrats, it's about Trump, whatever, but it's about this. People are hurting, and they're simply and when it comes to Ukraine or whatever, Trump, here's the thing about it. He doesn't have to do anything. No. He could do omission. He could simply say, well, Trump, are you going to get a deal in Ukraine? Nah. What do you mean? Well, I'm going to call Zelensky and say, dude, you need to get a deal, man. But look, I got a lot of things going on right now. Give me a call. Let me know how that works out. Oh, what? Send you weapons? Yeah, we can't afford that right now. We got to get our own stocks up. Money? Oh, you got to be kidding me. Don't have it. Call Olaf and Keir Starmer and those guys. Maybe they can help you out. Toodles. Bam, and hangs the phone up. He doesn't have to do anything. He
doesn't even have to make. He doesn't even have to make that phone call. If I were advising Trump right now, I'd say radio silence and let them come to you. And then when you don't respond, watch them shift, because they're going to come to you with their initial proposal. Don't respond. They're going to go back and come up with another proposal. Don't respond, and make them shift. And once they're in the game of moving out of panic to appease you, at that moment, then you bring them in and say, "No, I reject your plan. Here's the plan I want you to do." And they'll take it and they'll run with it.
Yeah, but you don't have to do that. You can go back on about your business and fix it yourself if you want to. If you can't take my plan, go on about your business. And
it's a take it or leave it. Here's my plan. And you know what the Trump plan is? You pay for everything, you do everything.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Look, the Trump's plan involves no money coming from the U.S. I'll tell you another thing I think, and I'm going to ask you about that. You spent time in Europe. You've lived in Europe. You've dealt with Europeans. Here are my thoughts on something. I'll make it brief. How are the Europeans going to respond? We saw this. We've got to Trump-proof this. We got to push back against Trump. We hate Trump's terrible. I tend to think that those lily-livered, weak-kneed, pencil-necked bastards, they got nothing. And for all of the fat talk they got, that when Trump takes office, they will be climbing over each other to kiss Trump's ring. And instead of all this, we're going to fight Trump. We're going to stop him. They're going to go to, Don, Mr. Trump there. We always thought you were a good guy anyway. We always liked you. We supported you. How can we? The European leaders have nothing. They're weak as hell. Olaf Scholz, Macron, these guys are the wimpiest. They could have been in Kamala Harris's Men for Trump commercial. That's how weak they are, right?
They were white dudes for Kamala.
You're right, exactly. They're for all the talk, they're gonna kiss Trump's ass. That in the end, whoever is the president of America, they're going to kiss his ass when January 20 comes. What do you think?
Well, I mean, they weren't going to kiss Kamala's ass, because Kamala was going to give them everything they wanted out of. One of the great frauds that's been perpetrated on the American people is the close relationship between the United States and Europe. The historically close relationship. Guys, we've been using Europe as our colonial, we are the colonial masters of Europe. That's not a relationship. That's like saying that that you're a ladies' man when you buy prostitutes. No, you're just buying hookers. There's nothing good about you. You haven't done any magic. We bought Europe. We own Europe. We use Europe. And what happens is Europe has gotten used to this, and so they're used to being bought, and so their whole thing is, we're here for you, pay for us. We're here to perform for you, pay for us. And America, Trump has said, I'm not going to pay. Kamala would have continued to pay, would have continued that relationship, and it's a relationship that Europe is addicted to. Europe doesn't know how to operate independently. Europe should view the Trump presidency as Liberation Day. Literally Liberation Day. Here's Europe's chance to do that which they've been complaining. I don't know how many times I've heard Germans say, Scott, we can't. We are ruled by the American colonial masters. Trump doesn't want to be your colonial master anymore. Trump has said, you're free.
Right.
You're free. But they're like the in the Game of Thrones, they had Khaleesi came in and she freed the slaves of this town, and then she had slaves come to her saying, But I want to go back to being subservient to man, because that's the only life I know. And she's like, but I gave you your freedom, but I don't want my freedom. I want to do what I know. And that's the problem with Europe. They don't know how to be free. They're scared of it. Man, this is liberation, guys. This is your chance to be free, but you're going to have to liberate yourself, not just from America, but from yourselves, from the European Union, which is just an American colonial mechanism to control you, from the G7, which is controlled by America, from NATO, which is controlled by America. You got to get rid of all that and start doing what Emmanuel Macron has talked about for many years, to build European institutions that are free of American influence. In the past, the establishment wouldn't allow that to happen. The American deep state wouldn't allow that to happen because everything from defense to the economy to geopolitics is predicated on us controlling Europe. Trump just said, I don't want to control you. You're free. Go. And he's going to kill the establishment. Here's your chance, Europe. Be all that you can be. But you're, but they don't know how. That's one of the problems, is that they literally don't know how. So that's where we're at right now. But Europe has been liberated. This is the liberating moment for Europe. Ukraine was an American war. We made that happen. When is Europe going to grow up and stop buying into the establishment narrative that says this Ukraine conflict is dangerous for Europe because Russia's going to now come in? Russia's going to invade nothing. Russia wants out of this war now, right now.
Yeah.
And a liberated Europe could go in there and make this thing go away right now. It could all end, literally all end today. All you have to do is go to Russia, say, we're ready to sit down and talk realistically, no preconditions, but we want to sit down, and we're going to give you the big things you want. Ukraine will never be part of NATO. We're going to agree to demilitarization. We're going to agree to the borders as they currently exist, not frozen on the battlefield, but as are recognized by the Russian Constitution. We're going to lift the sanctions against you. We're going to do all that. But we also want to talk about what comes next, how we create this new European security framework along the lines of that which you postulated in December of 2021. You do that, this war is over that quick.
Yeah. Let's go with and as I see people in the chat, oh well, Scott's a little too he's optimistic. Look, it don't hurt to be optimistic. Nobody's saying that any of these things are guaranteed to happen. We have an intellectual discussion, and this is best case scenario. These are some things, if you want to be optimistically, that could potentially happen, that we hope will happen, and we will continue to monitor things. But these are the potentials out there for things to big to happen. I'll move on to one last thing before we go, and of course that would be Israel. And now here's my thought. I'm a big believer that both of these conflicts will, to a large extent, be resolved by internal politics. That internally, that right now, I don't know how long Ukraine can last, because right now in Kiev, they're running in all directions. They're like, holy crap, what do we do? Oh my God. They don't have any political stability. And there are people thinking, what is Trump going to do? What questions are we going to ask? And believe you me, there are people that are going to say, well, I need to get in touch with Trump and tell him I got information about how they tried to screw you. And I'd be willing to give you that information, for the right price, to let me go, whatever, right? Get me the hell out of here before the Azov kills me. Oh, there's going to be whistleblowers coming from everywhere ready to talk, right? But internally, Kiev right now, I guarantee you, is very, very unstable. Same thing going on in Israel. They're getting their asses kicked really in every direction. The U.S., again, may not want to say we can't give you any more stuff, but they're running out of stuff to give them. And people are in the streets over the firing of Golan. Israel is extremely internally unstable. And that internal instability and the coupled with the demilitarization of the U.S. could spell doom for Israel before January 20th.
Look, if I were advising the Iranian government, and I'm not, and I wouldn't, that's one way to get in trouble with the FBI. But hey, I know that our things I say are shown around in Iran. So hypothetically, if the Iranian government was listening to me right now, my advice would be, let Israel kill itself. There's no need to have Operation True Promise 3. There's no need to attack. There's no need to go into escalation. Follow along the lines of the policy platform that was agreed to in BRICS, which is a policy of de-escalation, regional de-escalation, focusing on economic activity. You can dig yourself out of these sanctions by engaging with Eurasia, with Russia, with China. A whole bunch of good things can happen. You don't need a war with Israel because Israel is killing itself. All of the metrics that you use to design, to define what constitutes a viable nation state, Israel doesn't meet any of them right now. Their economy is a basket case. $67 billion hit last year. It's going to be worse now. No tourism, no investments, no economic activity. They're just leeching off themselves. 60,000, it's more than that now. Remember when Netanyahu said, I'm going into Lebanon to get the 60,000 returned home? They ain't going home. Tens of thousands more have been evacuated. They have to live in hotels. I think it was you that said that they are propping up their GDP figures by, putting in the money spent on the hotels for these people is somehow income, but no, it's not. It's the state paying for it. It's deficit spending. So their economy is trashed. The port of Eilat has gone bankrupt because no ships are coming in. Haifa is under attack. No ships are going to be coming in there. So economically, Israel is going to collapse. Militarily, they're being beat by Hamas. They're being beat by Hezbollah, and Iran has shown that they can destroy it. Right now, troops are committing suicide before they deploy. Desertion rates are sky high, 12 to 24% in some units. The world has abandoned Israel. Around the world has abandoned Israel, and Israel's not going to win them back. Internally, Israel is a basket case. They were on the verge of civil war before October 7th. Now with Gallant, with the settlers, with the whole thing, if the CIA were to plan regime change in Iran, and you took all the domestic political problems that Israel has right now, just erase Israeli names and all that, and said, look, I could get this to happen. Boom, boom, boom. Tanked economy, military in disarray, da da da. CIA go, that's the perfect model for regime change. That's how we collapse a nation state. Israel's done it to themselves. Israel is a basket case, and there's nothing Trump can do to reverse this. That's the thing. He can sit there and huff and puff and put on the yarmulke and pose and take $100 million from Adelson and all this stuff. Trump can't reverse any of this, and it's only going to get worse between now and January 20th, when he will be in a position to do something. So, Trump and Jared Kushner can talk about Gaza seaside property and all this crap. It can't happen when Israel is collapsed, and so I think that we're going to be seeing more talk about preserving Israel than we are about an Israeli victory. That Trump's going to be more in the how do I prevent Israel from totally collapsing than he is about an Israeli victory, because all continuing this conflict does is exacerbate the conditions that are bringing Israel down. And these are irreversible. Trump is suddenly going to empower the U.S. Navy to stop Yemen. The U.S. Navy couldn't stop the Yemenis from interdicting. What, Trump's going to come in and suddenly make American missiles more accurate, make American carriers more lethal? No, he's not going to do that. He doesn't want a war with Iran. The last thing he needs is a war with Iran. Hezbollah, there is no military solution. Hezbollah is winning. Just the other day, they fired, I think it was either this morning or yesterday, they fired a half a dozen Fatah 110s. These are long-range missiles. Israel didn't shoot a single one down. They all hit the targets they were aiming at in Tel Aviv. Wait a minute, I thought Hezbollah was destroyed. I thought Israel went in and blew up all their missiles and all this stuff. Hezbollah hasn't been touched in terms of the big picture. Yes, they've lost some leadership. They've lost some a couple, things here and there. It's called war. But Hezbollah has been preparing for this conflict since 2006. That's 18 years. And they have a plan. And they know what the Israelis can do. They know how the Israelis bomb. They have gone deep underground, and they will be able to continue this forever. And Trump can't end that. So I think, when Trump says you need, tells Netanyahu you need to clean this up before I come in, whether Netanyahu wants to or not, I think Israel's on a path of, there may be a military coup in Israel.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Think about what we're saying here, the greatest democracy in the Middle East. There may be a military coup. It's ruled by a 3-person Security Council dictatorship as it is. There's nothing democratic about Israel right now. It's a military dictatorship. They just relieved the Minister of Defense. There may be a coup. And if there isn't one now, as they move forward to make hard decisions, there will be a coup. I mean, Israel is not a healthy state right now. So it solves itself. I know there's a lot of people out there saying, Trump's a Zionist, Trump's this, Trump's that. What do you, I love it when they ask me, what are you going to do about the Palestinian situation, Scott? What I've done all along. I'll call it out. I'll identify the genocide. I'll identify this. But the solution is happening, whether I want it to or not. The solution is happening. And the solution is Israel's killing itself. And that's the only way you get a Palestinian state, is for the death of Israel. And I'm not advocating for it. I'm not saying it's happening.
Right.
All I'm saying is it's happening, whether you want it to happen or not. It's happening, and it's irreversible.
It's like this. If you're standing next to a cliff and you see some guy jump and he's in the air, you know how that ends.
You know how
you can't. It's not whether you want. He's in the air. And last time I checked, everybody who jumps off a building goes down. Nobody goes up. So the last thing I'll ask you about is this, and that is, just since we're talking about Trump a minute, I'll leave it at this. One of the things that Trump said is, I want to, the tariff stuff, whatever, but he says, I want to get rid of sanctions. Okay. The only way that the U.S. could do anything to counter BRICS, and I don't want BRICS countered myself, anything would be to get rid of sanctions and to stop leaning. It's created because we sanction the hell out of 1/3 of the people on this planet. You get rid of it, and what you get is a bunch of countries who say, well, shit, we ain't sanctioned. We can do business. I'll put it like this. They may still be pushed, say, I'll join BRICS, but the urgency disappears, and they just slowly start drifting into BRICS or out of BRICS. But it's, in fact, I'll add one even more. BRICS is no longer a threat to you because they can do business with whoever. So now you'll have people who say, I'm in BRICS, but I'm still in business with these people, so I don't have to solely do. You can say, if you want to do BRICS, whatever, that's up to you. But remember, you can still use the dollar and go through us. They're already using the dollar. It's going to be a pain in the neck to get off the dollar, so they'll still stay with the dollar. So if Trump were to get rid of the sanctions, it would be the most beneficial thing that could happen to the. In fact, I think if he started getting rid of sanctions, our economy could heat up. People would do business with us. And let me add one other thing. And our companies could do business with other people.
The biggest growth opportunity out there is for America to stop being at war with the global economy. And that's what we are. We're at war with it. Vladimir Putin said, it's not that I decided to reject the dollar. It's that you stopped allowing me to use the dollar. BRICS has been talking about creating an alternative currency. Putin showed the notes and all that. It's going to take some time for this to happen because it's not easy, and it's inconvenient, and it's expensive. But they're doing it. This is the thing. They're doing it. See, for so much time, I used to, attend these meetings annually where all these genius economic people, and I say that in some cases in quotation, came on, but a lot of them dealt with the energy business, and they were so cocky. They're like, the world can't live without us. We have the money, we control the dollar, the world's not going to do this, there's no reason. And they were just dismissive of everything. How are you dismissive now, guys? I just want to ask you that question, because the world is rejecting the dollar, and left to its own volition, the dollar is going to die. So again, Bobby Kennedy, if you're listening, man, get to Trump and tell him the following. Immediately lift all sanctions. Immediately lift all sanctions. What you've done there is you've saved the dollar as the reserve currency. Immediately return to Russia the hundreds of billions of dollars that you took and all the interest. Just give it back and say, oops, that was them, not me. Sorry about that. immediately lift all SWIFT um, blocks. Every bank out there can use SWIFT. The second you do that, all these other alternatives are coming up, they die because nothing is as efficient as SWIFT. Nothing. You let everybody have SWIFT, there's no need to create an alternative, especially when it's untested, all that. Do this, and you now control the world's economy, not by threats, by the fact that they have to use your systems. They have to use your systems. And now, the other thing I would say is stop opposing BRICS. To give you an example, what did Biden, he in September of last year, I think 2023, he said, he announced the creation of the India, Middle East, European Economic Corridor. It was going to go from Mumbai into Dubai, get by container ship, and then get on a train and go from the United Arab Emirates through Saudi Arabia, through Jordan to Israel to Haifa, and then on another ship and go to Greece. And he said this is as an alternative to BRICS. Well, let me just show you the stupidity of that. The Dubai port, China plays an important role in that. I think also in Mumbai. But the railroads that they're getting on are built by the Chinese. You get to Haifa, that port has definitely been under the control of Chinese management, and they're going to go to a Greek port that's under control of Chinese management. That's the Belts and Roads Initiative right there, but Biden is pretending that it isn't. Don't play games. Just say, if I were Trump, I'd say, give me all the places where the Belts and Roads Initiative is. Okay, double down on that. Start taking advantage of that. Reduce our transportation costs. We're already in there. Let's get our businesses on there. Let's use the Chinese as a lifeline to establish economic relations with all of these nations. No LGBTQ attachments, no abortion attachments, none of this crap. Just go in there and do business and make sure that everybody uses SWIFT and in the US dollar. Make everything dollar-based, SWIFT. Type in the efficiency, because the Chinese have put in $10 trillion to build this infrastructure. Why not use it to our advantage? And in doing so, you become the business partner that's indispensable. It's not that you're going to be dictating solutions. It's that they're going to be coming to you saying, hey, we want to do this. What do you think? And you say, yeah, I like that idea, but could we make this a little bit more convenient? I'd like my people to be able to come in here. Boom, boom, boom. You become a partner that has so much skin in the game that you are, if not controlling, you're a dominant part of it. That would transform the global economy. We would make trillions of dollars, and the world would be at peace. That's how you do this. But instead, he's, if he said, and again, guys, talk to Donald. This is stupid. I'm going to put tariffs on all nations who are de-dollarizing. Donald, they're just going to de-dollarize faster. Exactly. You just made it. You gave them the economic incentive to buy into the expensive and inconvenience of a new currency, a new banking system. You've got the winning hand right now. SWIFT, play it. Let everybody use SWIFT without restrictions. And now there will be no alternative to it. And they're going through your banks. Don't hold national sovereign funds hostage. Make the dollar a secure way of securing your global, make the dollar relevant. And don't sanction the opposite. Rather than strangle them, double down on the $10 trillion that China has built on global infrastructure right now. Tap into that. You don't have to pay for that now. It's there. Don't go building something new. Use what exists. And you're going to make a lot of money. And you're going to have stability, and you're going to be in control. You won't be the chairman of the board, but you'll be invited to the round table, and nobody's going to talk until you sit at the table because you're the big dog. You're the big dog. And you don't have to act like the big dog. You just walk in, everybody's going to go, hey, how's the big dog doing? Oh, we're doing pretty good. How you doing? And that's how it should work. That's what BRICS is supposed to be.
Yeah.
See, so we can counter BRICS just by changing our behavior. And it's so easy to do, especially if you kill the establishment.
Yeah, it could be an alternative. BRICS should be an alternative option. it shouldn't be their only option because we've kicked them out of our interest rate. You know what I mean? But who knows? Look, here's the bottom line. A lot of people are in the chat. Oh, no, you guys are naive. We're not saying this stuff is going to happen. I think Scott's saying these are the type of things that could make a difference. These are options that could make a change. We don't know what's going to happen. We could come out tomorrow and find out that, Trump has chosen Jamie Dimon and Pompeo to lead. We don't know what's going to happen today or tomorrow. We are saying their potential. There's a potential. That's all there is. But speaking of which, I think Maverick has decided that he's had just about enough of this crap. So, all right, Scott. Well, I'm going to get running. I know you got to go. All right. Look, all right, everybody. So Scott's got to run. Here's the bottom line. I want to thank everybody. And again, look. This is an intellectual exercise. And if you know this channel, that's something I love to do. This could happen. That could happen. What are the possibilities? So we're being optimistic. We're giving positive possibilities. But keep in mind something. Tomorrow, Trump could come in, as I said, well, it's Pompeo and Jamie Dimon all the way. And then you'd be like, yeah, we've been crapped out again, which could happen. There's a potential for that to happen. Maybe even a likelihood. I don't know. But right now, we can dream, can't we? We can talk about what could be. We can talk about what could be. What is unburdened by what has been. That's what we're doing here. We are trying to talk about what is unburdened by what has been. Thank the Lord that Kamala Harris gave us that option. But all jokes aside, so it was fun. It was fun. The truth is, let me give you this truthful part. I agree with Scott. I had come to the conclusion. If Kamala Harris won, we could kiss our asses goodbye, and maybe sooner rather than later. That Blinken or whoever was going to say to that vacuous, brain dead idiot, "Hey, we got to fire these missiles at Russia into and then it spirals downhill, and the next thing you know, we're sitting around saying, "Hey, looks like it's curtains. We just got a notification on your phone." Incoming nuclear missiles find shelter, to which I would say there ain't no shelter to find from nuclear war, right? So that's where I felt we were. Not that we're not there now, but it feels like maybe we aren't quite there, maybe. And that's a good thing. Some of us can breathe a little bit deeper and a little bit better. And I think that now we just keep our eyes open and see what happens. I think the issue of censorship was, that was going to crack down. And Trump, somebody that they threw off of Twitter. So it's possible, maybe, who knows, maybe some of the censorship could be pushed back on. RFK Jr., here's a guy who, he's been censored, all this kind of stuff. So let's hope that maybe there's some pressure from the government, some kind of an anti-censorship movement. I don't know if it's going to happen, but there's a possibility of that. There are all kinds of possibilities. We'll see what happens. We will take the good with the bad. We will endeavor to persevere. We'll be focused on what is, unburdened by what has been, and we'll be middle-class families that are proud of our lawns. Any more hollow platitudes that I learned from Kamala? Anyway, and we won't have people say, "You pronounced her name wrong. How dare you?" But at any rate, thanks a lot, everybody. Here's what I want you to do. Somebody says, RFK Jr. crashed 3 parties. Is he done yet? RBN is slipping without you, CJO. At any rate, I'm just reading a couple of the things. Thanks a lot, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Mark Sloboda tomorrow morning at, I believe, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Brother Mark Sloboda, that's going to be fun. Tony Montero, I'm going to have him tomorrow. Dr. Tony Montero from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to talk about we discussed that the black vote in Pennsylvania that came out for Trump, that came out or stayed home or whatever. So we're going to talk about, and he was a guy who said, he felt that Trump needed to win because just like me, he was like what he said was, I'm not saying that Trump's got to win, but I'm saying that these people, the Harris people, got to lose. Everything had gone berserk under them. The whole woke stuff was just not getting it done. So at any rate, thanks a lot, everybody. Here's what you need to do. Share this on all your social media platforms if you can afford it. Well, first of all, rockfin.com and Telegram, follow me there, and Rumble, follow me there. And if you can afford it, buy me a coffee is always great. It's like buy Garland a coffee. How much? $5 or however many per coffee. And just like Patreon, you can now go and buy me a coffee and do the old, okay, we're going to be, I'm going to be a monthly subscriber. So all that stuff helps. As you know, I got Sputnik calmed down. I wonder, got shut down due to sanctions. I wonder if that may get opened back up, Radio Sputnik. That would be good. I'd have a job again. How about that? But if you can afford to help out a poor American who's down on his luck, I need a dime to bite on, like the old Bugs Bunny commercial. But I mean, Bugs Bunny show. At any rate, if you can afford it, buy me a coffee, Patreon, PayPal. What else do I have? I've got my Cash App information up there. Whatever you can. Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful day. Peace. I'm out. And share this. Don't forget to share it, because I am shadow banned all over the place which seems kind of weird, right? I mean, it's not like I'm a real, well, I guess, you know what? The discussion that we have on this channel is a real discussion that is really dangerous for the ruling elite. So that's what I got to shut down people like me and you. We're out.